remember to get your free Bitcoin when you sign up for Gemini or Coinbase. $10 in free Bitcoin when you deposit $100. The link is in the description below. Thanks. What up, Crypto Warriors? It's Sergeant Crypto back at it again. It's Wednesday, the 7th of October, 2020, here on CoinGecko. Pretty much trading sideways for the past 24 hours. XRP is up over the past 7 days. And what else is kind of up? Monero, past 7 days. But pretty much trading sideways. As you know, the market follows what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is the reserve currency of crypto land. Let's get into it. National debt, still growing. It's not getting any smaller. This is your share of the national debt. What? You didn't contribute to it? Yeah, you did. You're an American citizen. You're welcome. Next, this is one of the reasons why the national debt is so high. I don't even know what kind of adjective to use to describe what's happening here. But coming from Bitcoin.com, $9 trillion in stimulus injections. The Fed's 2020 pump eclipses 2 centuries of USD creation. Think about that. Over the past 2 centuries, since the US has been in existence, since 1776, Declaration of Independence, formation of the Continental Army and the Continental Marines and the Continental Navy and all that good stuff. Since then, the US has not printed as much money as it has printed over the past 6 months. Think about that. Since September 2019, research shows the Federal Reserve has pumped over $9 trillion, so over a year, my bad, $9 trillion into primary dealers by leveraging enormous emergency repo operations. A recently published investigative report shows the U.S. Central Bank submits the daily loan tally, but the Fed will not provide the public with information concerning the recipients. Estimates say in 2020 alone, the U.S. has created 22% of all the USD issued since the birth of the nation. They've been injecting this secret fund, secret monies to who knows who. Is it to themselves? Is it to their family members? Who knows? We don't know. But this investigative report, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, will break down the fact that they've been doing this actually since forever. And it's just one big scam. If you don't know, the New York Fed, which is located over there in Wall Street area, they have their own private police. Remember that the Federal Reserve has nothing, people, nothing to do with the federal government. It just has federal in the name to fool everyone in the country. Since the inception of the Federal Reserve back in 1913, they named it that way to fool people, to fool even people in Congress and in the Senate, to let them believe that it has something to do with the federal government, but it is a private bank. Why does a private bank need their own police force? Think about that. Let's get into it. Here it is. This is the report of some investigative reporters, and they broke down that this whole shenanigans has nothing to do with the COVID virus, has nothing to do with it. Yes, the world was on shutdown. Yes, economies were hurt. Yes, they had to quote unquote bail us out. However, they've been bailing out the banks since September of 2019, a whole 13 months ago, because we're in October now, people. So a whole 13 months ago, they've started printing this $9 trillion in secret to save banks that are insolvent. They have no money. They are broke, but they keep printing this money. If, and I keep saying money, printing this currency, if we as private citizens started to print currencies, we would go to jail. They're counterfeiting this currency and printing it and giving it to save their banking friends. All right, the New York Fed, the unlimited money spigot in times of need by Wall Street's trading houses, has been conducting meetings with hedge funds to get their input on the market. So it gives a little background here about the 2008 financial crisis and the subprime market and all that good stuff. All right, they shorted a bunch of banks, this trading house. So they didn't just short the CDOs, the collateralized debt obligations, and they didn't just also they also shorted banks because they saw that they were insolvent. These bankers that were from the movie The Big Short, right? They were shorting they knew that the housing crisis was coming, so they started shorting mortgages and all that good stuff. They also started shorting banks, betting against banks. They were not allowed to bet against Morgan Stanley because they were a subsidiary of Morgan Stanley. All right, the New York Fed was in charge of almost all the secret $29 trillion in bailouts during 2007 to 2010 financial crisis. I didn't even know that they printed $29 trillion back then. They printed $29 trillion. Think about that. And gave it to these banks. This was back in 2007, 2009. This was over a decade ago, since the last financial crisis. We learned that Morgan Stanley was one of the largest recipients, receiving a cumulative total of $2.04 trillion, according to the audit conducted by the Government Accountability Office. Buried deep in the GAO audit is this bombshell. Morgan Stanley funds include TALF borrowing by funds managed by Front Point LLC, which was owned by Morgan Stanley at the time of the TALF operated. And again, these guys, they wanted to short Morgan Stanley, but they weren't allowed to short Morgan Stanley because they were owned by Morgan Stanley. They knew what was coming. I need to watch this movie, The Big Short. If you have watched it, please comment about it in the comment section below. All right. So it's more of the same happening right now. These secret meetings with hedge funds, secret meetings with these large banks and these large financial firms about who should get the money. We have no idea who's getting the money. All right, or I should say currency. It's super windy outside, so if you hear that, that's the wind from outside. My window's open. I'm sorry. All right, by the end of 2007, I'm sorry, meaning for every $40 in assets, there was only $1 in capital to cover the losses. So they were basically they were underwater. They were basically underwater. Less than a 3% drop in the asset values could wipe out a firm. They were over leveraged, is what it is. They were over leveraged. But they could be over leveraged because guess what? Their friends have the currency printer. They could print all the currency that they need. It has nothing to do with this coronavirus and things like that, like I've stated. And they were the ones that received the bailouts back in 2007 to 2010. They couldn't do that again, blatantly do it again, because they knew that they would have a riot. There would be blood in the streets if they tried it again. This is why they gave all of us that shut up money of $1,200. Everyone get $1,200, shut up, go back to your houses, go back to your homes, don't worry about anything. Okay? If they didn't give that $1,200, there would have been blood in the streets. Banks would have burned. Trust me. Which brings us to today. The New York Fed is back in charge of a vast roster of emergency lending facilities. It won't provide information on to whom or how much it has loaned individually in the 3 of those facilities: the primary dealer credit facility, the commercial paper funding facility, and the money market fund liquidity facility. Try to say that last one 3 times fast. On top of those facilities, beginning on September 17th, 2019, months before the first case of coronavirus was reported in the United States, the New York Fed embarked on a massive emergency repo loan operation, which had reached $6 trillion cumulatively in loans by January 6th. So they've been getting this money since September of 2019, and then by January it totaled $6 trillion. Nobody was talking about it. I was in other cryptocurrency channels, but I know that I was talking about it here on this channel. All right, this is why you have to subscribe and stay up to date. The Fed has provided data on the total amounts of the daily loans, but not the names of the recipients. All it will say is that the loans are going to its 24 primary dealers, which are the trading units of the big banks on Wall Street. The last time we tallied its data in March, it had sluiced over $9 trillion cumulatively to these trading houses. And again, this was back in March. So imagine how much it is now. A full, what's that, 6 months later or so. Imagine how much it is now. So from September, October, November, December. So October, November, December, January, 4 months, they total up to $6 trillion. And then only another 3 months after that, it totaled up to $9 trillion. Now 6 months later. So you can imagine that, we'll just say it's been $1 trillion a month. So we could just add another $6 trillion to that. Insane. According to the research released in December by the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, 4 large banks and hedge funds were responsible for the repo blowup in September. Now, I highlighted these names right here because they have been talking about, this is who they've been meaning, all right? Which brings us to the New York Fed's Investor Advisory Committee on Financial Markets, the IACFM, which it initiated in the midst of the last financial crisis on July 24th, 2009. Today, half of the committee's participants are executives of giant hedge funds, including, and they give all these names. Now, Paul Tudor Jones, he came out and stated that he's going to start investing in Bitcoin. Now, although it's not the underlying asset of actually investing in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin futures, he's starting to invest in Bitcoin. He's going to take 1 or 2% of his fund is starting to invest in Bitcoin. We see that also Ray Dalio of Bridgewater Associates starting to invest in gold and also in China. Again, these guys are at the meetings. They know what's happening. They know what's happening. They're actually in the meeting sitting out and discussing these things, so they know exactly what's happening. All right? Please think about that. So it gives a little history on the Fed. Since the Fed's inception in 1913, the statutory role of the Federal Reserve has been to serve as lender of last resort to commercial banks so that those commercial banks could help the overall economy by making sound business and consumer loans. The statutory role of the Fed has never been to be a lender of last resort to the trading houses on Wall Street and or hedge funds. But beginning with the 2007 to 2010 financial crisis, the New York Fed has simply arbitrarily decided to provide an unlimited money spigot to Wall Street's trading houses whenever they are at risk of blowing up themselves as a result of their own hubris. And that's what it is. They have so much hubris. They just think that they control the world. They know everything. And they know that the Fed will print as much money or currency as they need to bail them out. Last but not least, speaking about a central bank, coming from Bitcoin.com again, UK court overturns ruling on $1 billion Venezuelan gold at Bank of England. The UK Court of Appeal has overturned an earlier court ruling which denied Nicolas Maduro's access to Venezuela's gold worth about $1 billion kept at the Bank of England. The court did not recognize Maduro as a legitimate leader of Venezuela. And it's just like in Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your coin. You're not holding on to your gold. It doesn't belong to you. If it's not in a safe that you have physical control of and are able to get to, you have no control over it. So again, we see another central bank stealing from another government. And here it is. It's just outright theft. It doesn't matter who is in charge of that country. It's the country's gold. And they're holding on to it. Outright theft. We have thieving or stealing from a whole country. It's just a big bully, saying, hey, this is my lunch now. I'm going to hold on to it. Let's really think about it. What can Venezuela do to England? A whole lot of nothing. What can Venezuela do to the United States? A whole lot of nothing. All right. What can we do as United States citizens to the Federal Reserve, to the New York Fed? A whole lot of nothing. Because it's a secret bank. It's a private bank. We don't even know who the board members are. And guess what? Congress isn't even allowed to audit them. And they have their own police force. So again, a whole lot of nothing. Protect yourself. Buy Bitcoin. This is Sergeant Crypto, and I'm out. Peace.